The alarm sound started screaming across Outpost Theta 7 at exactly 14:32 Galactic Standard Time. Commander Vexthul dropped his morning meal and rushed to the command center. His forearms moved quickly across the control panels as data flooded the screens around him. "What is it?" he barked at his sensor operator. "Unknown contact, sir. Large vessel. Very large." The young Zelkarian's voice shook as he spoke. It just appeared out of nowhere near the binary stars. Vexthul stared at the main display. The ship was huge, at least 3 kilometers long, maybe more. Its shape was strange, not like any vessel in the Empire's vast database. The hull seemed to eat light in some places and throw it back in others. It made no sense. Energy readings? That's the problem. Sir, there are no energy readings, no heat signature, no radiation, nothing that should let something that big move through space. The commander felt his blood turn cold. In 40 years of service to the Zelkarian Empire, he had never seen anything like this. The Empire ruled 17 star systems. They had conquered 43 different species. Their technology was the best in the galaxy. Nothing should be able to hide from their sensors. Send a message to Imperial Fleet Command. Tell them we have a situation. On the other side of space, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Pathfinder. He was a tall man with graying hair and tired eyes. This was supposed to be a simple test flight. Earth's first ship with quantum fold technology. A quick jump to empty space and back home. "Amy, where are we?" he asked his navigation officer. "Lieutenant." Commander Amy Rodriguez checked her instruments twice before answering. "Sir, we're not where we should be. The quantum fold put us in the Kepler 442 system. There are structures here. Artificial structures." Morrison walked to the main screen. Sure enough, there was a space station orbiting one of the outer planets. It looked military. Lots of weapons and sensor arrays pointing in every direction. "Nathan, what do you think?" Morrison turned to his science officer. Dr. Nathan Phillips was already running scans. "Captain, that station is actively scanning us. High-powered sensors, they know we're here." "Any signs of life?" "Yes, sir. The station has about 200 life forms. The readings are strange, though. Not human, something else." Morrison felt his heart start to beat faster. First contact. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. And these aliens had military technology that looked advanced. "Captain," Amy said from her station. "I'm picking up movement from the station. Looks like they're powering up weapons. How long until we can jump again? The quantum fold drive needs 3 more minutes to recharge." 3 minutes felt like forever. Morrison watched the alien station on his screen. He could see weapon ports opening. Whatever these beings were, they did not seem friendly. "Sir, I'm getting communication attempts from the station," said Communications Officer Sergeant Lisa Murphy. "It's in a language I don't recognize, but the computer is trying to translate." "Put it through." The bridge speakers crackled with alien sounds. Then the computer's voice came through. "Unknown vessel. You are in Zelkarian space. Identify yourself immediately, or be destroyed." Morrison looked around at his crew. They were the first humans to make contact with an alien species, and that species was threatening to kill them. Back on the station, Commander Vexthul was getting more worried by the second. The unknown ship was not responding to their demands. Worse, his weapons officer reported that targeting systems could not get a lock on the vessel. "How is that possible?" "Unknown, sir. The ship's hull seems to bend our targeting beams. It's like trying to aim at smoke." Vexthul had fought in many battles for the Empire. He had seen ships try to run and hide, but he had never seen technology like this. Ships that could appear from nowhere and could not be targeted by weapons. "Sir, message from Fleet Command. Admiral Thexeron wants a full report. He's sending the 3rd Fleet to investigate." The commander nodded. The 3rd Fleet was powerful. 200 ships, including the mighty dreadnought Eternal Dominion. If this unknown vessel was a threat, the Admiral would handle it. On the Pathfinder, the quantum fold drive finally finished charging. "Drive ready, Captain," Amy reported. "Get us out of here. Now." The universe seemed to twist around the ship. Space folded in on itself and then snapped back. In an instant, the Pathfinder vanished from the Kepler 442 system. Commander Vex Thule stared at his sensors in shock. 1 second the ship was there, the next second it was gone. Not destroyed, not hidden. Simply gone as if it had never existed. Sir, all sensors show empty space. The unknown vessel has disappeared. Vexthul felt fear creep into his mind. The Zelkarian Empire was the strongest force in the galaxy. Their ships were fast and powerful. Their weapons could crack planets. Their sensors could find anything that moved in space. But this ship had appeared from nowhere, ignored their weapons, and vanished without a trace. Whatever species built it had technology that made the Empire's best ships look like toys. He finished his report to Admiral Thexron and sent it through the communication network. Within hours, every military commander in the Empire would know about the unknown vessel. They would all be asking the same question. If this ship could do what it did with ease, what else could its builders do? And more importantly, were they coming back? The Pathfinder reappeared in empty space, light years away from the alien station. Captain Morrison felt relief wash over him, but he knew this was just the beginning. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. And their new neighbors had weapons pointed at anyone who entered their space. The age of isolation was over. The question now was whether humanity was ready for what came next. Emperor Khazrul read the report 3 times. Each time he felt his anger growing. For 800 years the Zelkarian Empire had expanded across the galaxy. No species had ever challenged their power. No technology had ever matched their weapons. But now, something had appeared that could vanish from their sensors like a ghost. The Emperor sat in his throne room on the capital world of Zelkar Prime. The walls were covered with the flags of conquered species. 43 different worlds had fallen to his empire's might. Their leaders had begged for mercy before being executed. Their people had become slaves in the empire's factories and mines. Summon Admiral Thexeron, he ordered his aide. The admiral arrived within the hour. He was a massive Zelkarian even by their standards. His body was covered in scars from 100 battles. He had led the conquest of the Cygnus sector and the brutal war against the Androians. When Thexeron spoke, lesser beings trembled. My Emperor, I have already begun moving the 3rd Fleet to the area where this ship appeared. Tell me about this vessel, Admiral. How is it possible that our sensors could not track it? Thexeron pulled up a holographic display. The strange ship rotated slowly in the air between them. Our best scientists have studied the data from Outpost Theta 7. The ship's hull appears to use some kind of light-bending technology. It absorbs and reflects sensor beams in ways we do not understand. And the propulsion system? That is even more troubling, my Emperor. The ship showed no energy signature at all. No heat, no radiation, no gravitational disturbance. Yet it moved through space and then vanished completely. Our physicists say this should be impossible. Emperor Khazrul stood from his throne and walked to a large window. Outside he could see the imperial shipyards where new warships were being built every day. The sight usually filled him with pride. Today it made him feel uncertain. How many ships are you taking to intercept this vessel? 200 warships, including the Eternal Dominion. We will establish a perimeter around the entire system. If this ship returns, it will not escape again. On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Morrison stood in a briefing room at Space Command headquarters in Colorado Springs. Around the table sat the most important military leaders on Earth. Admiral Patricia Lawson, a small woman with sharp eyes, was asking difficult questions. Captain, you're telling us that these aliens immediately threatened to destroy your ship? Yes, ma'am. As soon as we appeared in their space, they demanded we identify ourselves or be destroyed. Their weapons were charging when we escaped. Defense Secretary Brandon Carter leaned forward. He was a former Marine with gray hair and a serious face. What's your assessment of their military capability? Dr. Nathan Phillips answered. Sir, their technology appears advanced but conventional. Energy weapons, traditional shields, standard propulsion systems. They have the advantage of numbers and experience, but their technology follows patterns we understand. And they couldn't target our ship? No, sir. The quantum fold technology seems to interfere with their sensors. Our hull material also helped deflect their scanning attempts. Admiral Lawson studied the data on her tablet. This changes everything. We're not alone in the universe, and our neighbors are hostile. We need to know more about them. Secretary? Carter nodded. I'm authorizing Operation Silent Watch. Captain Morrison, you'll take the Pathfinder on reconnaissance missions into their territory. We need to know their strength, their technology, and their intentions. Morrison felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Understood, sir. How far do you want us to go? As far as necessary, but remember, Captain, you're not just representing the United States Navy. You're representing all of humanity. Back in Zelkarian space, Admiral Thexron's fleet had arrived. At the Kepler 442 system, 200 ships spread out in a massive net. The Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. The ship was 5 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Status report, the Admiral commanded. All ships in position, sir. Quantum inhibitor fields are active. Nothing will be able to jump to faster than light speed in this system. The quantum inhibitors were the Empire's secret weapon. The technology prevented any ship from using faster-than-light travel in a selected area. It was how they trapped enemy fleets and forced them to fight on Zelkarian terms. Excellent. If this unknown ship returns, it will find itself unable to escape. The Admiral had fought many battles using this strategy. Enemy ships would appear, confident in their ability to run if things went badly. Then, they would discover they were trapped. Most surrendered immediately. Those that fought were quickly destroyed. Captain Morrison and his crew prepared for their first reconnaissance mission. The Pathfinder had been modified with additional sensors and communication equipment. Their job was to gather intelligence without being detected. Amy, plot a course for the edge of their territory. We'll start with their outer systems and work our way in. Course plotted, sir. Quantum fold drive is ready. Morrison looked around at his crew. They were about to become the first humans to enter hostile alien territory. If they were caught, there would be no rescue mission. Earth didn't have any other ships with quantum fold technology. Lisa, make sure all communications are recorded. Everything we see and hear needs to get back to Earth. Yes, sir. All systems are recording. The space around the Pathfinder began to twist and fold. In an instant, they were gone from Earth's solar system. They appeared at the edge of a star, system controlled by the Zelkarian Empire. In the distance, Morrison could see a massive space station orbiting a gas giant. Smaller ships moved back and forth between the station and several mining platforms. Nathan, start scanning. I want to know everything about their technology. Already on it, Captain. Their ships use fusion reactors for power, plasma weapons for offense, energy shields for defense, all conventional technology but very advanced. Any signs they've detected us? No, sir. We're too far away and their sensors can't penetrate our hull technology. Morrison watched the alien ships go about their business. They had no idea that humans were watching them, studying them, learning their weaknesses. The Zelkarian Empire had ruled the galaxy through fear and superior technology, but they had never faced an enemy they couldn't see coming. The reconnaissance mission had begun. Soon, humanity would know everything about their new enemies, and the Zelkarians would learn that some prey was more dangerous than they realized. The Pathfinder appeared above a mining world in the outer rim of Zelkarian space. Captain Morrison watched through the main screen as huge machines stripped away the planet's surface. Thousands of alien workers moved like ants between the mining equipment. How long can we stay here safely? Morrison asked. 3 minutes, sir, Amy Rodriguez replied from her navigation station. Any longer and their patrol ships might detect us. Dr. Phillips was already scanning the planet below. Captain, these aren't Zelkarians working the mines. These are a different species. The life signs show they're being forced to work. I'm detecting collars around their necks. Some kind of control device. Morrison felt sick. Slaves? It appears so, sir. The Zelkarians are using conquered species as slave labor. Communications Officer Lisa Murphy looked up from her station. Sir, I'm picking up distress signals from the planet. Weak transmissions, but they're there. Someone down there is calling for help. Record everything, Morrison ordered. We need proof of what they're doing. The 3 minutes passed quickly. The Pathfinder folded space and vanished, leaving no trace they had ever been there. On Zelkar Prime, Admiral Thexron was receiving disturbing reports. The unknown ship had been spotted in 7 different systems over the past week. Each time, it appeared for a few minutes and then vanished. His fleet was always hours behind. "How is this possible?" the Admiral demanded of his intelligence officer. "We have ships in every major system. We have listening posts throughout our territory. How does this vessel keep appearing without warning?" "Sir, our scientists believe the ship is using some form of instantaneous travel. It doesn't move through space in the normal way. It simply appears and disappears." Thexron studied the star map on his wall. Red pins marked every location where the mystery ship had been sighted. There was no pattern he could see. The ship appeared in military systems, civilian systems, mining systems, and research stations. It seemed to be studying everything. "Double all patrols. I want every system covered." Back on the Pathfinder, Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez was starting to see patterns in the Zelkarian patrol routes. She had been tracking their ship movements for days, noting how they responded to each appearance of the human vessel. "Captain, I think I figured out how to predict their patrol schedules," she announced during their daily briefing. Morrison looked interested. "Explain." "Their ships follow set patterns. They rotate patrols every 6 hours. If we time our jumps correctly, we can appear in systems when their patrols are in transition. It gives us a few extra minutes before they respond." "Good work, Amy." "Lisa, how are you doing with their communications?" Sergeant Murphy had been working around the clock to decode Zelkarian transmissions. "I'm starting to understand their language, sir. Their military communications follow standard patterns. Orders, status reports, patrol schedules. But I'm also picking up civilian transmissions that are much different." "Different how?" "The civilian channels have a lot of fear in them, sir. People talking about quotas they can't meet, about family members who were taken away, about being hungry. The military talks about conquest and glory. The civilians talk about survival." Dr. Phillips added his own findings. "Captain, I've been analyzing the data from all our reconnaissance missions. The Zelkarian Empire controls their territory through fear and oppression. They have a strict hierarchy. Zelkarians at the top, conquered species at the bottom. The conquered species do all the dangerous work while the Zelkarians take the benefits." Morrison absorbed this information. "How many species are we talking about?" "At least 20 different species across the systems we've visited. Maybe more. Some planets have multiple species working together, all under Zelkarian control." The reconnaissance missions continued. Each jump revealed more of the Empire's true nature. The Pathfinder visited factory worlds where alien workers built weapons and ships for their conquerors. They saw prison planets where entire populations were kept in labor camps. They found research stations where Zelkarian scientists studied, captured technology from conquered worlds. But the most disturbing discovery came during their 8th mission. The Pathfinder appeared near a space station that was bombarding a planet below. The planet's surface was covered in fires and explosions. "What are they doing?" Morrison asked. Dr. Phillips ran scans of the planet. "Sir, I'm detecting cities down there, populated cities, but they're also detecting some kind of industrial activity. Looks like manufacturing facilities." "They're bombing. Their own subjects?" "Not subjects, sir. This appears to be a rebellion. The planet is fighting back and the Zelkarians are punishing them." Lisa Murphy was monitoring the communications between the space station and the planet. "Captain, I'm getting transmissions from the surface. They're begging for mercy. They say they'll stop their research programs and submit to Imperial authority." "Research programs?" "Yes, sir. It sounds like this species was trying to develop new technology without permission. The Zelkarians are bombing them to stop their scientific advancement." Morrison felt anger building in his chest. The Empire didn't just conquer other species. They prevented them from growing, from learning, from becoming more than slaves. Back in Imperial space, Emperor Khazrul was becoming obsessed with the mystery ship. Every day brought new reports of sightings. The vessel appeared to be studying his empire, learning his secrets, but why? And who was controlling it? "Admiral Thexron, I want this ship captured. Deploy experimental weapons if necessary." Offer rewards to any commander who brings me information about this vessel. The admiral nodded. Yes, my emperor. I've already authorized the use of our new gravity mines. If the ship appears in one of our trap systems, the mines will prevent it from escaping. And if the mines don't work, then we'll know we're dealing with technology beyond our current understanding. But that also means whoever built this ship could be a threat to the entire empire. Emperor Khazrul stared out at his fleet anchorage. Thousands of ships spread across the orbital space around his capital world. The sight had always filled him with confidence. Now, he wondered if all those ships would be enough. The Pathfinder completed its latest mission and jumped back to empty space. Captain Morrison called his senior staff together for a meeting. We've seen enough, he said. This empire controls dozens of species through force and fear. They prevent technological development in conquered worlds and use the populations as slave labor. If they continue expanding, they'll eventually reach Earth. Dr. Phillips nodded. And when they do, they'll try to do the same thing to humanity. Not if we stop them first, Morrison replied. It's time to go home and report what we've learned. Humanity needs to know what we're facing. The Pathfinder began its journey back to Earth, carrying intelligence that would change everything. The Zelkarian Empire had ruled through superior technology and ruthless oppression, but they had never faced an enemy that could strike from the shadows and disappear without a trace. The dance of shadows was ending. Soon it would be time for humanity to step into the light. The United Nations Security Council chamber was completely silent as Captain Morrison finished his report. On the main screen, images from the Pathfinder's reconnaissance missions showed the horrible truth about the Zelkarian Empire. Slave worlds, bombed cities, and conquered species working in chains. Secretary General Maria Santos was the first to speak. Captain Morrison, are you certain about these findings? Yes, ma'am. We have recorded evidence from dozens of systems. The Zelkarian Empire maintains control through systematic oppression. They prevent any conquered species from developing technology that might threaten their rule. Admiral Patricia Lawson stood up. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not just looking at a military threat to Earth. We're looking at a genocide machine that spans multiple star systems. Defense Secretary Brandon Carter nodded grimly. The question is, what do we do about it? We have one ship with advanced technology. They have thousands of ships and control 17 star systems. Dr. Nathan Phillips stepped forward. Sir, during our missions we discovered something important. The Empire's control depends on their quantum inhibitor networks. These devices prevent faster-than-light travel in their territory. Without them, the conquered species could coordinate resistance across multiple worlds. You're suggesting we attack their infrastructure? Yes, sir. If we can disable the inhibitor networks, we could give the oppressed species a chance to fight back. President Helen Parker looked around the room. This is not a decision the United States can make alone. This affects all of humanity. The debate continued for hours. Some argued that humanity should focus on defending Earth. Others believed they had a moral duty to help the oppressed species. Finally, a vote was taken. The decision was unanimous. Operation Retribution was authorized. Captain Morrison received his new orders 3 days later. The Pathfinder would conduct strategic strikes against key Zelkarian military installations. The goal was not conquest but liberation. They would break the Empire's ability to suppress the conquered worlds. This is different from reconnaissance, Morrison told his crew as they prepared for their new mission. We're going to war against an empire that has never lost a battle. Our advantages are stealth and mobility. We hit fast and disappear before they can respond. Major Kevin Brooks, the ship's intelligence officer, had identified the primary targets. Captain, the inhibitor network has central control stations in each system. If we can destroy these stations, the local inhibitor fields will collapse. How many stations are we talking about? 17 major stations, one in each system they control, plus about 50 smaller relay stations that boost the signal. Sergeant Marcus Webb, the demolitions expert, was already preparing special charges. Sir, I've designed explosive devices that will completely destroy the inhibitor technology. The Zelkarians won't be able to repair them quickly. Lieutenant Colonel Samantha Torres, the tactical officer, had planned their attack routes. "Captain, I recommend we start with the outer systems and work our way toward their capital. It will take them time to realize what we're doing." The first strike came without warning. The Pathfinder appeared next to the inhibitor control station in the Vega system. Sergeant Webb's charges were attached to the station's power core within minutes. The ship vanished, just as the explosions tore the station apart. On the planet, below, a species called the Alterans felt something they had not experienced in 50 years. Freedom of movement. Their hidden ships, kept secret for decades, could suddenly travel between stars again. The second strike hit the Proxima system. Again, the inhibitor station was destroyed before the Zelkarian patrol ships could respond. On 3 different worlds in that system, resistance groups that had been isolated for years suddenly found they could communicate with each other. Admiral Thexeron was in his command center when the reports started coming in. "Sir, we've lost contact with the inhibitor stations in Vega and Proxima. Long-range sensors show they've been completely destroyed." "Destroyed? How?" "Unknown, sir. There were massive explosions at both locations. No enemy ships were detected." The Admiral felt cold fear creep into his mind. The mystery ship was not just watching anymore. It was attacking the Empire's most important infrastructure. Send fleets to guard all remaining inhibitor stations immediately. But the Pathfinder was already moving to its third target. The ship appeared in the Centauri system, destroyed the inhibitor station, and vanished before the defending fleet could even lock onto it. Something unexpected began to happen across the former inhibitor zones. Species that had been oppressed for generations started to remember their own technology. Hidden research facilities that had been shut down for decades came back online. Resistance movements that had been scattered and isolated suddenly could coordinate their activities across entire star systems. On the mining world that Morrison had visited during reconnaissance, the enslaved workers broke their control collars and seized the mining equipment. They turned the giant machines into weapons and attacked their Zelkarian overseers. In the factory systems, conquered species stopped building ships and weapons for the Empire. Instead, they started building ships for themselves, using designs they had hidden for years. Emperor Khazrul received the reports in his throne room. With each new message, his empire was falling apart. Systems that had been peaceful for centuries were now in open rebellion. "How many inhibitor stations have we lost?" 8, my emperor. Less than half remain functional. And the rebellions? Spreading across all affected systems. The conquered species are coordinating their attacks. They're using technology we thought we had suppressed decades ago. The emperor stood and walked to his window. Outside, he could see his own people preparing for war. But for the first time in 800 years, the Zelkarian Empire was not fighting weak and isolated enemies. They were fighting a coordinated resistance backed by advanced technology. The Pathfinder continued its campaign. Each strike was surgical and precise. Inhibitor stations exploded. Communication relays were destroyed. Weapons factories were reduced to rubble. The Empire's ability to control its territory was crumbling. Major Brooks monitored the results of their attacks. "Captain, the resistance movements are growing stronger. They're sharing technology and coordinating attacks. Some of them have weapons that match Zelkarian standards." "Good. That's exactly what we hoped would happen." Dr. Phillips was analyzing the broader effects of their campaign. "Sir, the Empire is losing control faster than we expected. The conquered species had more hidden technology than the Zelkarians realized. They just needed the freedom to use it." Captain Morrison looked at the star charts showing the areas of rebellion. Red zones marked systems where the conquered species had risen against their oppressors. The red zones were spreading. "How many more inhibitor stations do we need to destroy?" 5 major stations remain, sir. But I don't think we'll need to destroy them all. The Empire is already collapsing. On Zelkar Prime, Admiral Thexron made a desperate decision. "Recall all fleets to home system. We'll make our final stand here." "Sir, what about the outer systems?" "They're lost. Our only chance is to protect the capital and hope we can negotiate from a position of strength." But negotiation was not what the conquered species wanted. They wanted justice, and they wanted freedom. The Pathfinder had given them the tools to achieve both. The empire that had ruled the galaxy through fear was learning what it felt like to be afraid. The Zelkarian home system was in chaos. Admiral Thexron stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, watching as his empire died around him. 1,500 ships from across the galaxy had returned to defend their capital world. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in Zelkarian history, but it might not be enough. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from the Outer Rim," his communications officer announced. "The rebellion has spread to every system we've lost. The conquered species are working together. They have ships, weapons, and technology we didn't know existed." Thexron studied the tactical display. Red markers showed rebel fleets moving toward the capital system. Green markers showed his own ships. There were more red markers than green. "How long until the rebel fleets arrive?" 12 hours, sir, maybe less. On Zelkar Prime below, Emperor Khazrul was preparing for the unthinkable. For 800 years, no enemy had ever threatened the Zelkarian homeworld. Now the species they had conquered and enslaved were coming for revenge. "My Emperor," his aide reported. "The planetary defense networks are ready. All orbital platforms are armed. The surface is protected. And if the defenses fail?" The aide hesitated. "My Emperor, some of your advisors suggest we could remove the threat permanently, destroy the rebel worlds entirely." Khazrul considered this option. If he could not rule the galaxy, perhaps no one should have it. The Zelkarian fleet had enough firepower to crack planets. They could turn every rebel world into lifeless rock. "Prepare the planet killer weapons," he ordered. In space near the edge of the system, the Pathfinder appeared silently. Captain Morrison and his crew watched the massive Zelkarian fleet preparing for battle. Hundreds of ships formed defensive lines around their homeworld. "Nathan, are you picking up their communications?" Dr. Phillips was monitoring all frequencies. "Yes, sir. And Captain, you need to hear this. The Emperor has ordered his fleet to prepare planet-killer weapons. If they lose this battle, they plan to destroy every world that rebelled against them." Morrison felt horror wash over him. "How many worlds are we talking about?" "Over 40 inhabited planets, sir. Billions of lives." The captain made a decision that would change galactic history. Instead of attacking the Zelkarian fleet, he ordered Lisa Murphy to open communication channels on all frequencies. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Pathfinder. I am transmitting on all channels so every ship in this system can hear me." Across the system, Zelkarian commanders and rebel leaders stopped what they were doing. The mysterious ship that had started this war was finally revealing itself. "For weeks you have wondered who we are and where we come from. We are humans from the planet Earth. We came to your galaxy by accident and discovered the crimes of the Zelkarian Empire." Admiral Thexron ordered his ships to find and target the human vessel, but their sensors still could not lock onto it. Morrison continued his broadcast. "We have seen worlds where entire species work as slaves. We have seen planets bombed for trying to develop their own technology. We have seen an empire built on fear and oppression. On the rebel ships, crews listened in amazement. The mysterious benefactors who had freed them from the inhibitor networks were finally speaking. The Zelkarian Empire maintains power by keeping knowledge from you. They hoard technology and prevent you from advancing. Today that changes." Dr. Phillips began the most important transmission in human history. For weeks he had been preparing a complete technological package. Everything humanity knew about science, engineering, medicine, and space travel. Advanced manufacturing techniques, clean energy systems, faster-than-light communication, and most importantly, detailed instructions for quantum fold technology. "We are transmitting our complete scientific database to all ships and planets in this system. This knowledge belongs to everyone, not just the rulers. Use it to build better lives for your people." The transmission spread through the galactic communication network like wildfire. Within minutes, every species in the former empire was receiving human technology and scientific knowledge. On the mining world where the rebellion had started, engineers stared in wonder at designs for machines that could do the work of 1,000 slaves. On the factory worlds, scientists discovered clean energy systems that could power entire planets without pollution. But the most important discovery was the quantum fold technology. Suddenly, every species in the galaxy could build ships that moved like the mysterious Pathfinder. Emperor Khazrul watched his empire collapse in real time. The species he had kept primitive were implementing advanced technology within hours. Ships that had taken his people centuries to develop were being built in makeshift factories across dozens of worlds. Sir, the rebel fleets are reporting new ships joining them, vessels using the human technology. They're appearing from nowhere, just like the mystery ship. Admiral Thexron realized the truth. The war was over. Not because the Zelkarians had been defeated in battle, but because they were no longer the most advanced species in the galaxy. Everyone had access to the same technology now. Admiral, incoming message from the Emperor. Khazrul's voice crackled over the communication system. All ships, prepare to fire planet-killer weapons. If we cannot rule, then no one will. But something unexpected happened. Across the Zelkarian fleet, ship commanders refused the order. Captains who had served the Empire for decades suddenly realized they were being asked to commit genocide. Sir, the fleet commanders are refusing to fire. They're saying the war is over. Morrison heard the communications chaos across the Zelkarian fleet. He opened another channel. People of the galaxy, the choice is yours now. You have the technology to defend yourselves, to explore the stars, to build whatever kind of civilization you want. The age of empires built on oppression is over. The Alterans were the first to respond. Their ships appeared throughout the system using quantum fold technology, but they did not attack the Zelkarian fleet. Instead, they surrounded the planet-killer weapons and demanded their surrender. Other species followed. Ships from dozens of worlds appeared around Zelkar Prime. They came not as conquerors, but as liberators. The former slaves had become the new protectors of the galaxy. Emperor Khazrul, faced with the choice between surrender and the destruction of his own people, chose surrender. The Zelkarian Empire formally ended after 800 years of rule. The Pathfinder jumped back to Earth, carrying news of humanity's first contact with galactic civilization. Captain Morrison and his crew had started as explorers and become liberators. In the months that followed, the former empire transformed into a confederation of free worlds. Each species developed their own interpretation of human technology. Some built ships for exploration. Others focused on healing their damaged worlds. All of them worked together to ensure that no single empire could ever again dominate the galaxy. The unknown ship that had appeared and vanished had indeed ensured the empire never stood a chance. Not through superior weapons or overwhelming force, but through the simple idea that knowledge should be shared, not hoarded. Humanity had won their first galactic war not by destroying their enemies, but by giving everyone the tools to free themselves. In a galaxy that had known only conquest and oppression, humans had introduced something revolutionary, the concept that all species deserved to reach for the stars. The age of empires was over. The age of cooperation had begun.